Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07 on a Monday morning, and I am so happy to be back in the saddle where I belong. Thanks for a great week off there, and thanks to Andrew Langer for filling in. But we know that all the heavy lifting was done by Julie Gunlock and Patrice Onwuka while Andrew was here. So thank you, Patrice, for... Excuse me. Did I just call you Patrice? You don't look like Patrice. You're quite different. You're Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie. It's Julie, isn't it?
You're supposed to stop drinking at the end of the cruise, Larry.
No, we never stop. We had a great time. We'll talk about it in a bit. Also, a little later this morning as we jump right back into the thick of things at 6:05 with Stephanie Lunkas-Aurora, broke a story out of Fairfax County about students' identification documents being ordered to be destroyed. That opens up a host of questions. 6:35, Garrett Exner from the Veterans on Duty talk about this crazy Navy SEAL story that the New York Times broke, which I don't think they should have broken, actually. Some stories probably you shouldn't put out if it's been leaked to you. 7:05, Joe to Geneva. 7:35, Maryland Delegate Kathy Shalega about how everything is great now in Baltimore and in the state of Maryland, no crime problem, and yet they're now asking for support for the police. But they hate Donald Trump. I'm not quite understanding. Kathy Shalega will explain it. And then at 8:05, former acting deputy commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, Ron Vitello, joins us about the Trump administration making great strides in finding those missing children. We learned about that in the hearings on Friday. What a busy week in D.C. And I'm back. And yes, I was staying on top of most of the things, including Julie Gunlock, the story of one of your neighbors from Alexandria, I guess, is a big Phillies fan, went down to that Marlin-Phillies game and put on her very thick black glasses. It's part of the uniform, I think, and stole that.
My glasses. Oh, here we go.
Stole that baseball from that little boy. There they are. There's your glasses. God. Oh, my gosh. Are you a Phillies fan?
Yeah. Well, she managed to get away and go up to Philly for the weekend, but the other Alexandria residents were all, marching in D.C., to keep crime in the areas where, poor and black people live and, keep the government out of the city of the district as they then get in their Ubers and Uber back to Alexandria. I have to say on Saturday. Yes, exactly. I had to say Alexandria seemed very quiet on Saturday when that protest was going on. But that is not the topic. I know we're...
No, I thought it was quite fitting that the sea of humanity marching against Trump were all marching in the direction from Northwest D.C. down toward, because that's where they all live. It was an... D.C. is what? It's something like 65% African American, I want to say.
It's 42%.
Is it 42%? But they call it Chocolate City, right? That's the whole point. Yeah. Oh, it's and yet I spanned that crowd. I scanned it.
100% white.
100%. I did not
and
see
old.
one. Yeah, and old. Yes.
And old.
They brought the scooters and walkers out for the march. It's not a march,
but also,
if you're using a battery-powered scooter.
I just love that all the reporters, no one actually walks into the crowd and says, "Where are you from? Where do you live?" Because I guarantee you it would be Montgomery County, it'd be, Alexandria, Arlington, going as far out, all the Northern Virginia areas, all of Montgomery County. It's just they never do, and because they love the picture that it sends.
So, I was on a cruise.
I know.
We're already diving into the news stories of the
back.
weekend. But can I tell you, I've never been to. It was the MRC cruise, by the way. You've heard us talking about it, and we've been running ads on the station for months. So too late now. Although I got to say, a good chunk of people were on the cruise, and they said, "Oh, we're here because of you, because of WMAL," and we heard you talking about it.
We get it done.
It was great. A lot of listeners came on the cruise, and it was hosted by Brent Bozell, the chairman emeritus or president emeritus of Media Research Center, and then his son David, who's now the president of Media Research Center. And we were cruising with Kevin and Sam Sorbo, and with Dana and Chris Lash, and with Joe Concha, and Colonel Alan West, and Tim Young. It was a fun group of people to be associated with. But I've never been to the Netherlands and to Norway before, or Scandinavia. I've never cruised that part of the world, and it was quite lovely. It was beautiful.
Nice.
Can I just say, gorgeous human beings come from that part of the world. You can sort of understand why they wanted to like go all in on that whole master race thing. I mean,
God, Larry.
Well, I'm not saying it was a good idea. I'm just saying you understand how they got there.
They are gorgeous. They are gorgeous people.
We walked through Amsterdam for about an hour and a half, and I was playing a game where I was trying to find the ginger Dutch. The ginger Dutch is sort of that white rhino that gets born like every 50 years or something. Because some of the Dutch are ginger. Most of them are all, tall, blonde. They put them on bicycles before the kids can learn how to walk. The number of bikes in that town is ridiculous.
Yeah.
What do they do when it snows?
They ride their bikes, Larry.
In the snow?
Yes.
Well, that's
they clear it and they ride their bikes. I've seen videos. It's crazy.
This is why they need us to win wars for them. Anyway, once in a while, you see a ginger Dutch, because they were all mostly blonde. But then you get the ginger, and it was sort of like winning a bingo game or something.
If you travel all over Europe, like we were in Ireland, and the city of Dublin was taken over by the Vikings. Much of England was invaded by the Vikings, so they were everywhere. So maybe that's where they're getting their red hair.
Perhaps. Yeah, Oslo was lovely. That's a fine city.
Gosh, to go there in the summer must have been beautiful.
Well, it was the first week of September, so it was just starting. The fall happens a little sooner.
Yeah, well, here it's like hotter than Hades here in DC.
Yeah, no, it was quite mild actually.
Although I think I can't remember. Wait a minute, I think it was actually we had this weird when you were gone. We had this weird period of really cool, crisp weather here in Washington. No humidity. It wasn't like, how Washington is frustrating? Like it can be 69 degrees, but 1,000% humidity, and so it still feels gross. Yes. No, it was like a crisp fall day. It was beautiful, and you missed it. You were up there on the fjord.
Yeah, well, we were floating on the fjords. It was lovely. Fjords are nice. Fjords are cold. I jumped into one of the fjords after being in a sauna.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's silly. We sat in a sauna that was floating on the dock right off one of the fjords there, right on the fjord. And,
fully clothed, or you had a bathing suit on. These are these weird Nordic people. Who knows? Were you naked?
I refuse. It was shocking that I actually went topless. Actually, usually I keep something on my upper torso as well.
Oh no.
And we listened to authentic Norwegian Viking music, chant sort of folk music, and they broke these ice balls full of essential oils on the top of the rocks of the sauna, and the woman was wearing a Viking hat and chanting at us. Oh
God, it's like an SNL
It absolutely was a Saturday Night Live skit, and we loved it. And we got all hot and sweaty and like crazy. You had to cover your nose because it was so hot going into your lungs. And then after 15 minutes, it says, "Okay, now everyone jump in the fjord," and y'all jump in 50-degree water, and I think I'm
and then die of a heart attack. It's probably not good.
It was great, and that's why I have this face tattoo. That was the final ritual of the Viking sauna experience. And as we're going back to the cruise ship, and Meredith's like, "So we're going to get a sauna, right?" Like, no, we're not. No. It was a vacation experience. We're not going to live this life.
Oh, no. I do that too when I come back from vacation. Whenever we come back from vacation, wherever we've been, we went down to Florida over the summer, went down to St. Augustine. So I went through this Cuban food week where my kids were like, enough beans.
Enough. That was vacation. You only do it when you're there.
Please make us a burger, please.
I'm back. I'm happy to be back. And I'm happy to be an honorary Viking. This is my broadsword. It's 5:15 WMAL.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
The cool thing about being on a cruise ship now these days, by the way, is that you can pretty much stay connected around the world. It sort of defeats the purpose. Meredith used to, when we first got married 10 years ago, she wanted to go on cruises with me because it would force me to not connect on social media and everything, because you used to have to pay through the nose for internet connections on a ship. But now it's gotten much more affordable. And in fact, with this ship, it was thrown into the cost, I think.
Yeah, it is. The problem is, too, this is your hobby.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to stop,
It's my vocation, too. I
right.
needed to be plugged in, so I stayed plugged in as much as possible. And you did have a very busy week last week. A lot going on.
We did.
As Congress came back into session, you had some pretty entertaining hearings, and we'll catch up on some of that stuff as well. But as I mentioned, I missed the beginning of the football season. I missed all the first. Well, we got back Saturday night, and because there were 2 big lightning delays at the Navy game, we theoretically could have gone and watched the second half at the stadium because but we were pretty wiped out from traveling.
Yeah,
we were still on
course.
European time and all that.
Yeah.
But Navy's 2-0 now, looking good.
Yeah.
Your Ohio State Buckeyes looking very strong, of course.
Yes.
And Michigan lost.
I'm sorry.
Michigan lost to Oklahoma.
Oh, Meredith's happy.
Exactly. It was
Yes.
rough. It was I had all of my in-laws.
Boy, Ohio and Oklahoma, you are kind of I'm sorry about that. Oh well. You just got back from vacation, so I don't feel so bad for you.
Exactly. It's a burden I'll carry with me, but it's fine. But Navy's looking very strong, and I'm so sorry that I missed the first couple of games though, because it looked like an incredible atmosphere at the stadium. And then the NFL started yesterday, and our Commanders looked very good against the Giants. You remember last year, the Giants in an ugly game. I think they won the game, but they never scored a touchdown. It was just field goals, if I remember right, last year. And it was Jaden Daniels' debut, and it was like, oh, gosh, he's not going to – and then he just went off, and Washington seems to have picked right back up. But, of course, it was the Giants. So this Thursday they'll be playing in Green Bay against the Packers, who demolished my Detroit Lions. All my teams lost except for the Commanders and Navy.
You can
my
never
2
leave town.
DC teams.
Never leave the States,
There
Larry.
you go. That's the solution. And can I tell you, as the Packers were beating up on the Lions, and now we have the Packers playing the Redskins this week, Thursday, early game, I was getting trash talk from Governor Scott Walker.
Really?
Yeah, the former Wisconsin
Good for him.
governor and now president of he's blowing up my phone with a lot of trash talk about the Packers.
I like it.
No, I don't need that in my life. I'll go after that. I Scott Walker doesn't know football.
Oh, Larry.
I think we need to start something. So I missed that, which is sad. My kids going back to school, or 2 of my kids went back to college for the new semester, and I missed that. I mean, I talked to them, but what else did I miss? Anything else? I need you to debrief me.
Oh gosh, Larry, I didn't know this was going to be a part of the morning. I didn't know I'd be in charge of this. I don't know.
You have to talk to me.
It's all a blur, Larry. It's all a blur. But it was a crazy. It's so funny, actually. You brought up this morning during our show prep, our meeting before the show. You said, "Hey, did you see that video of the woman who grabbed the baseball out of the dad's hand?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that was like a week ago, Larry." No, it wasn't. It was this weekend, or it was like Friday.
It was Friday.
And, I mean, I thought you were mentioning. It's been so saturated on X and in the news. This story. So I literally am thinking that happened like a week ago. I have no idea what happened on Monday. In fact, I'd have to go back to Heather's document to know what happened on Monday.
Our show rundowns. Yeah. Well, I will tell you this. One thing that happened in the middle of the week is something that is pretty stunning, but actually, as Trump is having fights with the mayor of New York and the mayor of Chicago and with Gavin Newsom over law enforcement, and again, somehow he's done it. He's jujitsu'd the Democrats so that they're defending criminals and defending crime and saying, no, don't come to our city and help things out. We don't. And it would be so simple for them to say, listen, I disagree with you, President, but if you're looking to come and help, sure, let's do. And if it means National Guard to help supplement some resources, we can figure that out. Let's work together on this. Instead, the Chicago mayor's acting like he's, leading the resistance and the Pink Hat March. And
yeah, and it's been done before. This is not unprecedented. Kathy Hochul just recently called out the National Guard to help quell some of the crime in the New York subways. Remember when they set a woman on fire, and among many other crimes, and that the media, this sort of commentariat didn't freak out when she did that. In fact, it was thought of as a good thing.
Right. Well, and there's one person who stood up and actually said, we embrace this, we appreciate it, and we want more help. Muriel Bowser. Muriel Bowser of D.C., which undermines the narrative of all that. Now, she's in a unique position because she's not a governor, and D.C. is not its own state. But she's doing this because she's trying to protect home rule. If she tried to stand up against Trump and start to fight this, home rule would be out the window. Yep. And she's smart and she's savvy enough. And now the Washington Post is leading the charge of dissenters in the district council to sort of say Muriel Bowser is acquiescing and bowing the knee to Trump and kissing the ring. And fine, you go there if you want. We're going to talk about that a little later as well. But I want to, listen, we criticize Muriel Bowser a lot. She did the smart thing, and she did the thing that was right for the people who live and work in the District of Columbia. So good for Muriel Bowser. It's 5:24.
Coming up, we'll talk about this terrible story out of Charlotte, North Carolina. A young Ukrainian refugee was killed on the metro there. Just a horrifying story. And, of course, the Democrat mayor seems reluctant to condemn the crime, the murder of this young woman. We'll have the details. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37. Good morning and happy Monday to you. Coming up at 6:05, Stephanie Lundquist Aurora, a Fairfax mom who broke a huge story about Fairfax schools deleting student identification documents, destroying them. Why would they do that? 6:35, Garrett Exner, board member of Veterans on Duty. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. 7:35, Maryland Delegate Kathy Shalega on Westmore's defiance. He'd rather have crime than have Donald Trump and the Trump administration help. And then at 8:05, Ron Vitiello, former acting deputy commissioner of CBP, Customs and Border Protection. Coming up with all of that coming up in a bit. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
A horrific story over the weekend with a security video on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina, showing a young, beautiful woman, Ariana Zarutska. She is a Ukrainian refugee who fled to this country because of the war, brutally murdered in cold blood by a man who's been in prison over 30 times over the course of the last several years. And because of left-wing Democrat policies, he was out on the street again with no ramifications or repercussions for any of his criminal behavior. He's sitting behind her wearing a red hoodie, and he just randomly gets up, pulls out a knife, and murders her by stabbing her in the throat. 14-time repeat offender. Did I say 30 times? Sorry, only 14 times. No accountability, no justice, no punishment. In fact, this goes straight back to Roy Cooper, the former Democrat governor of North Carolina, who's now flirting with the idea of running for Senate in North Carolina, and it looks like he's going to run. This was Roy Cooper, when he was governor, pandering to the Black Lives Matter crowd.
45. Today I signed Executive Order number 145 to establish the North Carolina Task Force for Racial Equity and Criminal Justice.
There you go. What does that look like exactly? It looks like a 14-time...
To establish the North Carolina Task...
Yes, 14-time repeat offender being out on the streets and able to murder in cold blood this young woman. And the second element of this crime, which is noteworthy, is that the media has not run one story about this. I saw one article in the New York Post. The New York Post ran a story about the fact that the rest of the media didn't do anything about the story, run the story. But if you go to the Associated Press and you search this victim's name, you get nothing. They would have already had over 100 stories about George Floyd after his death at the hands of a police officer.
Let's compare it to something more sort of similar. Daniel Penny. Someone did a side-by-side. They searched the word Daniel Penny on the New York Times website, and then this woman's name. It was like thousands on Daniel Penny and zero on this woman. So, that's typical. But what makes it even sadder is she was a refugee from Ukraine. She came here. She was escaping the violence in Ukraine. And then she comes here, and it makes you wonder, would she have been safer in Ukraine than in a city that allows maniacs, murderous insane people to walk around the streets and sit on the metro and wait for their next victim. It is such a tragedy, Larry. This poor young girl, still, by the way, in her pizza uniform. She had just left the pizza job where she was working, trying to get ahead, a refugee to this country, trying to get ahead. You'd think that that's the kind of story the media would care about, but no, they don't. And we all know why.
Mayor V. Lyles of Charlotte said, the video of the heartbreaking attack that took Irina Zaritska's life is now public. I want to thank our media partners and community members who have chosen not to repost or share the footage out of respect for Irina's family.
Right. We don't want... this woman has been complaining about people sharing this video because she does not want it known how dangerous her city is under her leadership.
Yeah. No condemnation of the violence, no condemnation of the criminals, no, just don't share this.
In fact, this mayor actually went on to sort of give this guy an excuse, said, well, obviously he's mentally ill, right? And then I love how they always use this as, well, we obviously need more funding to treat mentally ill people. I mean, how dark is that you actually use this as an opportunity to request more funding? Just sick.
By the way, and the Daniel Penny analogy is so apt. Thank you very much for that. Because if a white Marine, retired Marine Corps officer or enlisted man had been on the train and jumped up and intervened with this guy, and tragically the perpetrator, the murderer in this case, ended up dying because the Marine intervened, then that man would be facing criminal charges. The Marine would be facing the. That's what happened. Right. This is exactly what happened in the Daniel Penny situation, and I left out one key element to this. The murderer in this case is black, and the victim is white. Yes. And I hate to constantly go to that place where it's like, well, if the races were reversed, this would be a different story. But no, that's 100% true, 100% true. And that's why Roy Cooper is on record now, enacting the policies that were enacted that allowed this man to be on that train so he could murder this young woman was all framed through the prism of racial justice. He was allowed to stay on the street because he's black. And now there's a dead young woman killed in the prime of 23 years old. She was murdered. 23.
Just awful. It also raises the question, why didn't anyone try to intervene here? It happened very quickly. Yeah. He stabbed her in the throat. I doubt she could make a noise. And then he began to walk and pace on the train. And it wasn't until people saw blood dripping from that blade that they realized something had happened. I mean, apparently it was just people didn't really even realize what had happened. But I think you're absolutely right. We need to think about the sort of Daniel Penny effect. Yeah. If he had punched her, would these men have intervened? Would they have tried to stop them? Because look what happens, especially in these dark blue cities where they're prosecuted. Sorry.
It's 5:44.
Later this afternoon on the Derek Hunter Show, President Trump destroys a boat of drug smugglers. Democrats mad that he did it, of course. We'll talk about it at 3 o'clock on WMAL.
So we no longer have a Department of Defense. We have a Department of War. It's official.
Larry.
The statement was made last year. What do you think of that? How do you like Pete Hegseth being the Secretary of War?
I'm perfectly fine with it, and I have been amused by the reactions. But my goodness, Larry, you leave town and look at what happens.
Exactly. By the way, the new website, if you want any information on the Department of Defense, it's war.gov. The criticism of this is hilarious, actually, by the way. It was instituted by George Washington. It was one of the original cabinet positions. It was the Secretary of War, and it continued on that footing until after World War II, because I guess there was some notion that, well, we won't have any wars anymore, so it's just going to be about defending our country.
Right.
Defense is part of war. You need to defend, but it's just part of it. It's a tactic. And I think that by being called the Department of Defense over the last several decades, there's been this mission creep where suddenly people working in the Pentagon and working in our armed forces felt that their job was way more in line with sort of the State Department. for, diplomatic outreach. And, and listen, I love seeing these ads or these, news reports and PR positions are saying, look at what the Army has done to help these refugees get food and to learn how to read and to, dig a outhouse so that they have sanitary conditions. And we do things like that. But the suggestion is that that's the best and noblest thing that people in the military do, and it's not. The best and noblest thing that people in the military do is defeat our enemies.
We are not, our Department of Defense is not a humanitarian organization. It just isn't. It's not there. It's humane, and we certainly do things that help people, but ultimately their job is to defend the United States and, if necessary, go to war. So I agree with you on, I think that's exactly how you put how to explain this. The mission creep has led up to morale problems, for goodness sake, Larry. We've talked about this for years and it sort of topped off with the Biden administration about how just depressed the people serving in the military felt. So this certainly puts a new direction on things.
Now, this is a executive order, which means that people can begin using the term now, and they can do some of the formalities of it or the incidental aspects, changing some signs, new stationery, new business cards. But it will require an act of Congress to make it permanent, and we'll see if Congress does that. I do love Trump's... Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Trump's statement here, where he says, we know how to rebrand. We're good at rebranding here. We know how to rebrand without having to go crazy. We don't have to recarve a mountain or anything. We're going to be doing it not in the most expensive way. We're going to start changing the stationery as it comes due and a lot of things like that. But people complaining about this and say, oh, it's going to cost so much. Where were they complaining about changing the names of all of the forts and bases across the country?
Good point, Larry. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Are you kidding? They were perfectly fine with that.
I don't love these things. I actually remember right after Hurricane Katrina, I worked up on Capitol Hill, and there was an effort by Susan Collins to change FEMA to a new name. I don't even remember what the new name was. And I worked for Tom Coburn from Oklahoma, Larry. I worked for, and he was nicknamed because he was a doctor. He was an OBGYN, but he was nicknamed Dr. No. Dr. No, because he hated this kind of unnecessary spending. And I'll never forget, we had a markup, and I had to work until like 3 a.m. because he wanted us to find out the cost of changing every T-shirt. Because, you go to a disaster site, everybody has a FEMA T-shirt. It's like he wanted us to find out what it would take, how many employees there were. Everyone gets a new T-shirt. So I had to call, I'm not kidding you, I had to call around T-shirt shops. I had to call around to find out how many pencils FEMA has and find out how many and what that would cost. Right. And I'll never forget, but it was a really good practice for me because at the end, it was like $1 billion or something to change every name on this agency. And it to me, it was okay. That's a waste of money. But I do love that they've responded to this by saying, as stationery comes due, as things come due. But I do worry about the next administration then switching it back, right? So I worry a little bit about this stuff because it could be a waste of money.
Did Senator Coburn ever ask how much it cost you to make all the phone calls to ask how much it cost to get new pencils and T-shirts?
No, he did not.
That's when you know your time is limited in the senator's office. It's 5:53.